manager. One thing that we'd like a recommendation on or consideration on is if exempt employees should be included in this. Although they're not hourly, there are exempt employees out there working side by side the hourly employees. And if it was approved to include the exempt employees, it would just be that temporary incentive attached to their base, or it would impact their biweekly salary.
So Cheryl, the way the resolution currently reads, it would allow exempt employees?
The way it reads, it would. We don't have it stipulated one way or another. Upon your recommendation, we could go back and stipulate both or one.
So Ron, essentially it's your call on.
Yes, and Mayor and Council, we did, Cheryl and I, we worked with AJ Forte with the New Mexico Municipal League in lieu of we talked about bonuses or whatnot. This is the way that we can we can be able to place this in the policy in lieu of a bonus, so.
I just remember last year, all the overtime.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we went in and did bonuses, but
Yep.
this is the way it all works together.
This way it's clear, it's within the policy, and we have the, and we'll follow this policy.
I think the exempt employee should be able to get it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a given. I was going to suggest that the up to, but not to exceed, maybe,
Okay,
you know.
up
'cause
to but not to
Up
exceed.
to might be, everybody's thinking right off the bat, they have 15%, but not to exceed 15%. I don't know, that was just my thought when I read it last night.
Yes, sir.
And so then after the disaster or whatever the situation, then when Ron deems fit, they would go back to their regular pay.
Yes.
Let me give you a scenario. We got a certain department that's super short-handed
Yes.
that it's crazy. I've seen some of them out just this last week. You know, Ron would have the ability to tell them, correct me if I'm wrong, to keep this small group on that extended pay, that increased pay.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yes, Mayor. That'd be if just for operational due to lack of staffing, the ones that are working,
Yeah.
I can approve that, yes.
Makes sense.
I think so.
Well, you know, a lawyer works overtime all the time, and
We didn't add the attorney on there, but he's hitting me
oh
over
yeah,
here.
we left him off, I forget.
So Mayor, I got a question.
Sure.
Also, just on this here, just for checks and balances there, it says who would the designee be, and also would the mayor be informed? I remember in the past that we had where you had two people that authorized pay raises, this and that, nobody knew about it. And then, say it says up to a year, it says not to exceed a year. What are the provisions after that? Does it, like say, 5 days off and then re-implement it, or anything that addresses that?
Mayor, Councilor Eby, the designee would be the deputy manager, of course. Anytime there's a pay change, there's transparency with the mayor and council.
The PANs.
The PANs, the mayor signs off or acknowledges the PANs. so that
On
he
the
knows.
personal action notice, we'll have their immediate supervisor, the director of the department, and then it goes down to everybody, finance, everybody, Ron, and then I'm the last one, just to acknowledge that it's not up to me to say yes or no, it's just to make sure we're aware, you know, when we get pay for performance or whatever type of increases.
Yeah, that was just my question, to make sure there were layers of oversight.
Councilor Eby, I wouldn't anticipate it even going up to a year, but for example, it could be deemed during the monsoon season, so to speak, but there would be full transparency and everyone would know.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, where you want
Consent.
it? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Number 3, discussion on grant agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for the new E911 program grant to fund the Public Safety Answering Points, PSAPs. at the Village of Ruidoso and the Mescalero Apache Reservation for the period of time from July 1 to June 30th, 2026. Good morning, Katie. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
Morning.
So as we put this on there, this is an annual agreement that we have with DFA for funding our public safety answering point, the PSAP which is a dispatch. And as of recently, and I wasn't aware of this, because this was kind of a newer development, Mescalero is still on here, but we are no longer funding their PSAP. They've moved over to Tularosa Basin. So this is just the agreement with the Village of Ruidoso and DFA to fund our PSAP and ours alone. We're not the fiscal agent for anybody else.
Not even Ruidoso Downs.
We'll have a different one.
Yeah, so this is just the one with us, and that would have included Mescalero.
Got it.
Anybody?
Oh, just a question. So, Chief, as it's presented to us today, then we would strike out Mescalero Apache Reservation and leave in for the same time period?
Correct.
In the item summary, and the same for the coverage and consent of the same. So that would be like if we're going to consent, I just wanted to clarify that so that it's restated.
So, yes, sir. The correct one would be just basically removing Mescalero Apache Reservation, and then the agreement would be the same.
Stand away.
Standard agreement that we've signed in the past.
Consent.
With those changes as noted.
Okay, explain the changes again. Why is it even on here?
Well, he didn't know, I think when it was presented, Mr. Mayor.
That was the agreement as it was sent to me.
Uh-huh.
And I think as of, what was it you said?
I think it was just a typo on our side probably, because Tularosa Basin Dispatch Authority took over Mescalero like 6 months ago or something like that.
So we're not doing Mescalero.
So we,
Can we not take it
Why are we,
out?
why do we even? Why do we even have it?
Because initially the first agreement that was given to us for the workshop had it in there.
I know, but why don't we just strike it from the agenda?
no,
I
because
mean-
we have to,
We're applying for the grant.
Yeah,
This is,
my thought.
this is for our agreement with DFA also. It was just the
So-
previous agreement had Mescalero on there.
So it's just a grant with DFA.
Correct. It's just the.
Okay, so we
grant
just
agreement.
need to, and this is in addition to the one for the Downs.
Yes.
So to explain a little bit better on that, we have 6 positions for Ruidoso that are funded through DFA. Mescalero, or sorry, not Mescalero, Ruidoso Downs was never a PSAP. They were never a public safety answering point for 911. We have always been their PSAP. So we have this from DFA has never been a Ruidoso Downs thing. It's only been a Ruidoso and a Mescalero thing.
okay.
Okay.
So now it's just the Ruidoso thing.
Correct.
Okay. So what do you want, consent?
Consent.
For some reason, it's not the way I remember we did them. Okay, item number 4, discussion on Village of Ruidoso Police Department recruiting incentive payments and recruitment of entry-level police officer candidates and lateral police officer candidates. Yes, sir, Chief.
Okay, so this was one of those other things to try and bolster some of our recruiting efforts. As we've had a couple leave since the last time we've talked. But what it is basically trying to offer a hiring incentive for laterals and for certified officers. So for lateral officers, it would be a $10,000 hiring incentive that pays out over 3 installments, which are detailed in the contract that they would sign.
So maybe
Sir.
define me lateral transfer. What
Sorry.
does that entail?
So a lateral officer is somebody that's already certified. So
Okay.
either certified within the state of New Mexico, and we can put them through a short field training program, and then they're on the street, or we send them, if they're an out-of-state certified officer, we just send them to the academy for a 3-week academy. They come back and then we finish
Okay.
their field training program, as opposed to the uncertified officer, if you will.
Right, okay. Thank you.
So for the lateral officer, it would pay out in 3 installments, and this was basically a contract that I copied from Farmington PD. I added a couple of lines based on some of the other contracts that we had done locally to include that they agree to work for the Ruidoso Police Department, continuous full-time employment for 3 years. And that if they terminate that at any point in time, we will go after them for the last installment that was given, plus anything else that they would owe the village. And I also added the last part on there that they would be responsible for all attorney's fees incurred should we have to do so. And so I sent this through Zach for approval as well.
So, Chief, these dollar amounts, where did they come from?
So there were two options, and I'd been speaking with Judy, and the first thought was that we're going to have some salary savings right off the bat. I'm down about 7 positions now, still within 6 or 7 positions. So we're going to have some salary savings that we could possibly use that for. But I also believe there's also a provision within the Law Enforcement Protection Fund where I can use some of those monies for hiring issues, whether that be incentives, things like that. So we'll figure out the best direction we can go with that, but it would be one of those 2 areas. I was just going to get clarification from DFA on the usage of the Law Enforcement Protection Fund and what the requirements for that are.
Anybody else have any questions?
So, but this doesn't go towards the people in our department that might move up, might like become something else.
This is just to bring in new officers to fill the vacancies. This doesn't address anything within the department.
How do we, the mess in Albuquerque where, okay, and then,
What mess? The DWI mess,
Yeah.
the chief of police
Yeah.
mess, I mean, they got a few, I was just be specific.
DWI.
Oh, yeah, the DWI one.
And the guy left, and then he goes to what, Farmington or wherever he went.
So the officer, Durango.
Durango, yes. And then they come out with his name. There's nothing that we can do, to figure that one out. He had a good record until he didn't. So when we're hiring, do we really vet them really good?
We do a pretty good job of vetting the officers and any non-certified people that come in. So with that, if the agency that they're working for prior to or doing their job, if there was any misconduct, they should file the appropriate paperwork with the academy. And so with that, when we do these background checks, we call the academy and say, have you had any, what's called an LEA 90, which is a report of misconduct by the officer. Have you had any of those on this officer? Is there any record of any disciplinary actions that you know of? And if there's not, then that just means there's nothing that would have affected their certification. But then we also go into the agency itself, and we'll look at personnel files, if they've had any internal investigations, disciplinary actions, things like that. In that instance, that officer had actually retired or left from Albuquerque before this DWI scandal came out. And so I think he had some disciplinary actions, but not to the level that would have affected his certification. So it was kind of an after the fact.
Okay.
But we do, the guys I have doing the backgrounds do a pretty thorough job, and they've caught.
And it follows them now. That's the point I think you're getting to, because it was just passed in legislation. Before, they were buried, you couldn't ask, couldn't talk, but now then, if you got a bad officer, his record can follow him wherever he goes.
There's a list that they'll compile of anybody that's either been decertified, had a suspended certification, or anything else, and so that we would have access to those as well.
Okay.
So that was the lateral, and then I'll just briefly state the same thing on the entry level. It was the same contract for 3 years, and this, again, pays out in 3 installments, and then ties them to being here for 3 years as well.
I think that's really important, that if we're going to pay like that they need to be here.
So we're trying to get them to stay longer than, come in for a year and leave. We've obviously, the return to work hasn't worked out very well. I think Ron had talked to AJ and AJ Forte, and across the state, that wasn't something that was a big hit. And what we're trying to do is, one, we recognize also that somebody coming from out of state or out of town, it may be a little difficult to move up here initially. So this could help cover some of those moving expenses or get them into something. But that's also getting them to stay here and look at the next 3 years to get those added incentives. And then hopefully by that time, they've permanently relocated here and we can get them to stay here.
What if they didn't work out for us? Would we just be down that money?
So it does say in here that if they separate from the department in any manner, whether that be they leave, we terminate, whatever that is, we're still gonna go after that last installment plus anything else that they would owe us.
So they, and we're doing that with two? Is it two?
We've got 2 right now that we're going after right now that had left on other issues. That was retention bonuses, the ones that came from the state. So we're going after
That type of money that's offered as an incentive? Because right off the bat, we had people take it and then move on down the road to the next bonus. So they give us 2 years on that. And then we had several that left and took the money, but we are going after back.
We're collecting on 2 right now that have done the right thing to make those right. And then 2 more that we're working with Zach on, going after for collections on those. But this, and the reason I worded it that we're going after the last installment is I don't want to turn anybody off either saying, hey, we're going to give you a $10,000 incentive to come here, but if you leave, you're going to pay us $10,000. And that could be a turnoff as well, because that's who's going to be able to come up with $10,000. I get things happen. I don't want to put somebody, if something justifiably happens and they need to leave, I don't want to put somebody in a position where we're going to break them either.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Chief, I'm all in on this, but I wonder sometimes looking at it, and not specifically at this, but how much of a barrier the cost of living is when you recruit.
We've had that answer several times, whether that be for dispatch or for police positions. People have applied, we've got them into the process, then they've basically come back to us to say, we can't find anything up there that we can afford. And so they've basically withdrawn their application. Now, I'm combining this on top of the take-home vehicle mileage that we've already discussed.
Right.
So this should say we get somebody from El Paso. Now, maybe they do just move up to Alamogordo, but they do at least they can find something a little cheaper to live in, and it gets them started. And then hopefully within the next
Down
3
the
years,
road.
if we can get them to relocate. And I'm getting offers too. We've got people reaching out that are wanting to help house people if we get them in. So we're trying to keep track of those as we can, and then if we get somebody, we'll put them in there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Where do you want it?
Consent?
Consent, good? Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Item number 5, discussion on amendment number 001 to joint funding agreement, JFA, number 24, RGJFA 35 for the United States Department of Interior of Geomorphic Survey of North Fork Eagle Creek from North Eagle Creek Stream Gauge, Eagle Creek below South Fork Stream Gauge in the amount of $5,769, no cents, for a total amount of $64,000 even, and to extend the end of the date to September the 30th, 2025. Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning. Good morning, council. Mayor and council, this is the amendment 001 to join funding agreement JFA 24 RGJFA 35 for the geomorphic survey of North Fork, Eagle Creek. And the amendment is to increase the Village of Ruidoso's funding by $5,769 for a total agreement amount of $64,000, and to extend the end date to September 30th of 2026. And
Any questions? Okay, where do you want it?
Consent.
Consent. Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jack.
Great job. Item number 6, the discussion and purchase of a 2025 John Deere 300 P-Tier skid steer loader from Four Rivers Equipment utilizing Sourcewell contract number 163, 721, 2025 in the amount of $87,700. Yes, sir, Lee?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're wanting to purchase this skid steer loader to help us better maintain our our pavement lips and the lips around our lights and signs.
So,
And
go ahead.
Lips, payment.
the distance between the top of the pavement and the ground level, it has to be maintained within 1.5 inches. So with this loader, we can get out there in those areas between the lights and signs and be able to spread millings.
Okay.
Okay,
How fast would you get this?
If it gets approved, I'll order it today, and I should be about a week or two.
Next week.
next week when it's, yeah,
Yeah, when it's action taken next.
when we can take action next week.
Okay.
So, but he'll get it pretty quick. And it's coming out of which part of your budget?
I'm,
Is this,
initially, it will be out of my vehicles budget, and then it's 100% funded by the New Mexico DOT.
That's what
Aviation.
I saw, which,
Yep.
yeah, that's a given to do that.
Yep.
I would ask if, on the agenda item on the agenda, that we just say it's for the airport or include airport, because that way we know where it's going.
okay. Where do you want it?
Consent.
I think so.
Sam? Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Item number 7, discussion on the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between the Village of Ruidoso and Ruidoso Municipal Schools for the joint use facilities. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Council. So this is the annual MOU that creates the Joint Use of Facilities Board. We haven't met in the last 6 months, so
been a long time.
we will be back onto that quarter meeting stage again. Just with the way things had shaken out, we'd kind of tried to ramp back up. But we do have several different items that we would be discussing with the board in the next upcoming quarter.
Michael, any change in the verbiage on the?
No, sir.
MOU?
I'd like to put the brakes on this until the committee meets and talk about it, and that's a recommendation from them to come to us for approval. I mean, that's just my suggestion. I just asked Counselor Lutterman, she serves on that board, if they met,
You're on
and
it
it's
too,
been a
Darren.
while.
Yes.
You're on it too? Oh, that's right, I forgot.
'Cause
Well, I put his name down, that's why I was just trying to. I'm going, Doc,
That's it.
get me going.
I mean, that's just a suggestion, because I remember way back.
Well, what
that's-
would you
that's
want
what
to
it
change?
was.
I think it's cookie cutter. What are we looking to, is there anything to change on the operations?
No, sir. So the
Fields.
idea behind the MOU was just that we engage together and have the meetings. And I know that they had stopped for a while. We did start them back up prior to the fires and floods of last year. And then with everything, it kind of died down again. I do think that there are some discussions that need to come back to this group, specifically the master planning components of what we were looking at White Mountain. There's going to be some other items, I think, directly related to the floods that are good discussions, specifically relating to ball fields, how and who can help manage those during disasters. One of the things you've seen off of the Gavilan Field is that we're doing a lot of work in that area. We've been able to be in contact with the superintendent directly, and she's allowed us to do some of that development with NRCS around the area, but I still think those are things that would go to the committee just to have discussions as what happens if or when, and in future disasters, what does that look like from a response perspective? So things like that, I think, would still go back to the committee, but I don't think there's any language in the actual MOU that would change unless you all have recommendations or direction.
How do we water the fields? Because the schools used to give water rights from the property down in the Ruidoso Downs, and I know they don't have that anymore, but where does that water come from? I mean, how do we use that water?
From,
Where do we get that water from? Our water rights?
yes, ma'am, those are, that, we would use our water rights to water those fields, but I just want to make sure, yeah.
Yeah, we water the fields, but any of their other water they pay for
Yes.
in the buildings, but the field we're paying for.
The field we're doing general maintenance on, and that's part of the agreement.
Well, I kind of agree with Rifle that we need to have a meeting and discuss any issues, or are you having issues, are we having issues, and discuss it that way and then bring it.
Okay, so you'd
I mean,
like
it-
to remove it?
If we don't do this, is this going to cause everything to
No.
stop? Okay.
No, not at all.
And I would, Mr. Mayor and Council Letterman, I would agree, because I think it's, the optics on it would be far better. I mean, you want to put a little teeth into this committee, and it looks like we're overriding it. Regardless of what you all do, we're okay with it, so I think it would be better to have it in a proper form.
Understood. So we'll remove it, we'll remove it from the agenda.
So the consensus, if you wish, would be to remove to a later date.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna change, because this just gives them the ability, here's the things we're working on, so y'all sit down and talk about it in your meeting, and that's when you say, what about the water? This has no, it won't affect it at all, but it doesn't matter if we back it up or not.
I would
we
like
can-
a recommendation that Phase 2 of White Mountain is priority on both school and Rio.
Well, and I think that's where the committee needs to meet, because I
Yeah.
don't know if schools are necessarily aware of what the village is thinking.
No, I think we need to try to get on the same page
Yeah.
and go forward
Yeah.
with some things.
And as the mayor mentioned, those things are not mentioned in this agreement. This is
Right,
ju-
right.
But yes.
All this is saying, we agree that y'all are gonna go talk
Right.
to them, and then when you're in those meetings, that's things that y'all debate, make an agreement on, bring it back to this body, they bring it to their body to agree on.
Right, and basically this is, for the baseball fields, we take care of them, it's your land, but we're gonna take.
Yes, ma'am.
type
And we
stuff.
get to use them and
Yeah.
manage them, pick up the horse poop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just need to, Michael, make sure Becca understands we're happy and, ready to move forward. This is just a technicality.
Yes, sir.
It's just an annual agreement. That's all this is, it's just the MOU saying we're talking.
I think
Do we
it
have
could
a
be
meeting?
left on there, knowing that it doesn't affect the status of where we are or how we are. It's just like you're saying, that you can meet.
Yeah, you
And then
just,
meet with the directive of, here's some of the things that need to be brought forth first.
and if y'all have items like the ones we're talking about, that's specifically what y'all address when you go in on your agenda. Who sets that agenda? Is it,
So I had taken it over initially. We'll go ahead and start doing that again. I'll set those agendas and
Well, do
pass
you
them out.
think we could get one going like this month?
Yes, ma'am.
We could bring it back in August.
We'll get an agenda set up.
because I bet you we've all forgotten what is exactly Phase 2
Yep.
and where we're at. And then we're really gonna start fundraising. You put in a grant for planning? Did we ever get anything back on that? It was how much money?
Mayor and council, so the grant we put in for is not a monetary grant. It's through the National Park Association, and it's a planning grant. And so they help with the planning process as well as helping you try to find funds for that plan. And so they look at your plans and stuff and say, hey, if we tweak this here, then you're available for funding over here type of thing, or those kind of issues. I have not heard anything back from them, but then again, it is National Park Service. It's a federal program, and so it could be a little while on those plans. So.
I appreciate you going above and beyond. It just gets so frustrating that we have an architect, and you do this and you do that, and then you have a planning person. My gosh, we're never gonna,
So, and with this grant, it's not to redesign the whole process. That's not what it's designed for. It's designed to help us make those small tweaks and changes to say, hey, yes, for an example, yes, turf might be more expensive, but if you do turf with a drainage field underneath, then it applies for a water grant type of thing that,
Right.
you know, those are big money grants. So, hey, you can actually up your project a little bit, but there's money to help pay for all of this portion and stuff like that. So that's what that kind of piece is for.
Okay.
Just as a side example, one of the benefits that Matt's kind of brought to this is the idea that all of our trails get connected. And so through that Trails Plus grant with, attached to this specific location, there could be other possibilities that could be tweaked. So that's one of the major reasons for going out for that grant as well.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Tim? Thank you. Anything else on that? I mean, because there is a lot of discussion on it, just to remind the public what the phases are.
Mayor, council, what is the consensus of leaving it on the agenda or removing for a later date?
Whatever you want to do,
Remove it.
just remove it. So you're gonna not have a meeting, you're gonna have a meeting about having an MOU.
Yes, sir. That'll be on the next agenda and we'll see.
That'll have what other than what we already have on it? What are you gonna put else?
We're just gonna have discussion. And how's everything going? That kind of stuff.
Well, I'm totally missing the whole
Well,
point.
maybe the minutes of that, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I would like to see the memorandum, number one. Number two, I think, well, it says a memorandum of understanding.
Well, it's right here. It's the one that we've had before that you talk about. You can talk about anything. And all this is just to recognize the two organizations have the ability to meet. Am I wrong?
No?
Meyer, I
You're
didn't see
right
that.
on.
And then it's right here, whereas this, whereas that, it comes all the way down to the purpose of the agreement is to effectively manage. And in all of these points is when you say, what are we gonna do about the master plan? We need to start moving forward. So we make a proposal, Mike,
Yes, sir.
to the school to say proposal this, and they have the option to say yes, no, or here's our counter proposal. Because
So-
what's happening now, nothing's happening.
Yes, sir. An example of that next agenda would be, we'll have the MOU as the main item. Then after that, we would talk about the grant, for example, that would be placed on there and then anything else.
You know, purpose of agreement facilities to include, and it names them off, the Gavilan Road, Schoolhouse Park, tennis courts, blah, blah, blah. In that, you address the issues we're having at Horton, like when they were bringing in food.
Yes, sir.
You know, for the basketball games and stuff like that, and it wasn't passing health code. You know, have the ability to do it. This is just saying this body that represents the village has the ability, and the school says we agree to have meetings. Am I wrong?
No, sir. That's
Then you can talk about anything you want. Because without an agreement, you're not gonna talk to them representing the village as a body.
Okay.
That's all an MOU is.
This document basically gives you the authority to meet with them officially.
I mean, that's
Keep it on.
that's all that is. And then when you get in there, because he's gonna be setting the agenda, if you're still the chairman or whatever, give him the agenda items just like we do here. So you bring it up so you can discuss those items and then take action or not action on. And that way we maybe can get something moving.
Okay, that's fine. Just leave it on.
I mean, and if I'm wrong, explain it to me.
No, sir.
Okay. This gets the ball rolling again, I hope. Did you have something, Matthew?
I was just gonna touch on the other side of of this agreement, and it's just the maintenance side. So this is also the agreement between us and the school saying we'll maintain, those listed items. And, we schedule those, and then the schools do have priority over that schedule if they want something there, but all the scheduling goes through us and helps us clean things up and the outline for the
If you want to change
disputes.
that, now would be where you say, we want to go back with an agreement, but we'd like to change language that we're not totally responsible for that. Because the water issue is a big one because things have changed.
And that water is metered. It's just like any other place that uses metered water.
And we're
So,
doing okay with maintenance. Yeah,
Yep.
everybody feels good about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, like I said, we pay for the water for the facilities. They pay for electricity. Like at Gavilan, we pay for the water, they pay for electricity. That stuff's laid out in there, but, that's the big other portion of this MOU is just the maintenance portion and the right to use. us being able to use it for youth sports and things like that.
Okay.
And now, does Phase 2, does it have the additional baseball field in it?
Yes, I believe it
See,
does.
it's things like that that have changed that I'm not really sure where we're at on it. So if y'all decide you're gonna go with Phase 2, if we could have an agreement on what Phase 2 is, and then we can vote on it, they can vote on it, and we gotta find the money.
And Matt had actually done a presentation a week before, 2 weeks before the fires,
Yeah.
on what we were looking at. We actually presented to the school board. There was a presentation over what Phase 2 was and what that looked like. The issue was that there was actually no funds.
Yeah.
And so the school district gave us a direct, hey, great, but this is on the back burner for us. We honestly don't have any funds for it, and we're not going to move forward unless you all bring funds to the table.
Mayor and council, also that this memorandum was sent to us by the school district. They're the ones that requested the approval to renew it, so.
Okay.
So if you want to amend it, maybe we have discussion on that, and then before we approve next week. So if there's something that you feel like that we should be changing, or,
And we are, just from an operational perspective, we wouldn't have brought it to you if we thought that, or
Yeah.
made a recommendation if there was a concern.
Because if I recall a while back on the school facility master plan, their priority was to get that girls' softball field lit over there, and that was the priority for Phase 2, where we had the other fields, unlit ball fields or what, a concession stand, a playground and all that. That's where I just want to be clarifying of what, who's doing what. Is that the school or is that us? I mean, that initiated or initially was put in by us, by the Village of Ruidoso, with the school's permission of using all that acreage. I think it was $1 million bond that did that. So that's the talking about what are we looking forward as far as priority. Now, of course, people want another dog park. Are we doing it over in Midtown, or are we gonna expand this one first and then close that? I mean, that's, I guess, the kind of, that we were working with the schools, and then the route, the school bus route, or the parent drop-off route that was gonna come off of Ovella Estes and cut across that way. Is the school still on with that and stuff? That's kind of where.
or are we? Because
Or are we?
we've
Yeah.
had master plan meetings out there for years.
Yeah.
And we
the
came
whole
up
part.
with it, and then we were presented that things had changed, and that's where the additional ballpark came.
Right,
That's where different routes for the parents.
yeah.
And so what we need to do is see the final master plan for Phase 2. And, because the building is what phase? You know, when you're doing the swimming pool.
So the community center is kind of a Phase 3, 4, kind of, it's kind of tagged in there of when funds are available type of thing, because that is a facility like that's a very big ticket item. So it's everything else is Phase 1, 2, and 3, and then there's the rec center. And so it can kind of fit in any phase because it is on 421 Hull, and so it won't affect the other portion of the area. That's the nice thing about it is with the rec center there.
Rifle, where was the light supposed to be? In the new girls'
Yeah,
softball
when they
here
build-
at White Mountain?
Yes, at
Okay.
White Mountain.
Okay. Yeah,
A lit,
right.
a lit field for them. Which I don't object to any of that. I want to get those things rolling and get going. Because as I've always said about Horton Stadium, that's not a regulation football field. So, I mean, that, back when on the school board, we were talking at the high school, building a whole new stadium, and I said, well, at least we're playing in regulation field. And that's what, the same thing with the girls softball, the Little League field on Gavilan, that's not regulated. Or is it, T-Bone, is it 200 feet?
It's real short of 200 feet. I believe the regulation's 200 to 225.
That's what I thought, 200 feet, so,
Well, the good news is we're all getting along, you know, I know
No,
There were
it's
some
very
previous school
important.
board members that wanted to
No,
terminate the agreement, so.
that's very important.
Right.
Okay, let's keep it on.
Consent.
Consent. But then but don't we have to have a master plan to start going after with the engineering report to find out how much money we need?
Yes, sir, Mayor, and Matt and his team have been working on those
Right.
things along with bringing in the planning components. We did talk about that in a previous meeting about a year ago. There were plans that were shared with the committee that were reviewed, but those, obviously, there's been changes. There's also been structural changes on financing, on what's
Well,
available.
this is where we had discussion on the LIDAs and all that stuff, how we
yeah.
can move around. So there's a plan, kind of, which one will fit in this notch once they come up. And then we can go after a taxing district or whatever, and so there's other options.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you, guys. We'll have that one on
Consent.
consent. Thank y'all. Item number 8, discussion agreement between the Valley Chamber of Commerce. Look at him, everybody. What a treasure. Chamber of Commerce for professional services for the operation of Ruidoso Visitor Center, Billy the Kid Visitor Center, and Wingfield Heritage House Museum for the Village of Ruidoso in the amount not to exceed $227,700 even. And thank you. Saw your picture, getting the award. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful award.
Are you putting it at the museum?
Yes, would you like me to bring it?
I think
for
it'd be cool.
Tuesday?
It's really nice, yeah.
Right, Mayor and
beautiful.
Council, we'd like to add that maybe under the mayor's report, along with the award of excellence for Ruidoso Rewind.
We'll,
be good.
I'll bring it in. It's out in the car, and I'll bring it in, and maybe we can have Stephanie come and, yeah.
Just rolling around the floorboard out there.
No,
Eddie,
it's not.
on this contract, we have a chamber employee working at the museum?
Yes, she's
She's paid by them.
paid by the chamber.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Good morning, Mayor, council members. This is for the continued operational support for the Ruidoso Visitor Centers, Billy the Kid Visitor Centers, and Wingfield Heritage House Museum.
And Jamie's a jewel. She does a
Yeah,
nice
she's
job.
done great.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay. What do you want it?
Consent.
Sam?
Consent.
Thank
Great
you.
job, Ed.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Do we own the building, the visitor center building?
And the downtown?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's us.
Yeah, we own that one, and it's part of the Byways project that, Bill,
Hirschfield.
Bill and and Sonny, and there was a group that went through all of that, so yeah, we own it.
But T-Bone, they maintain it.
Yes.
We maintain
And
it.
it wasn't that many years ago, somebody ran through the front door
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And then we tried to fix it, and then it leaked, and then we got it fixed. So, and I once made the erroneous comment that it's the most expensive bathroom that we have in town. And Bill Hirschfeld skinned me alive, so I retracted it quickly.
And now you've said it again.
I said it again. Yeah.
Didn't we have a lot of innovation to the?
Yeah, we did. And then when Stephanie came in, she changed up some things. And so she will work down there. Sometimes I see her car, and I don't know who else is down there.
I don't know who works down there either.
It used to be Georgia.
Yes,
For a long time.
yep. Okay, so we'll put that on consent, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and then on a regular agenda, presentation of new employees and promotions. Then we'll have an integrated resources plan for Zia Natural. This is the deal they do every year. So Leslie Graham will be here. So if you have some good questions, it'd be a good time to ask her. She's always been very responsive. Update on the Cree Meadows Culvert Project right here. And while we're doing that, I know you're gonna talk about Innsbrook. And it's on the manager's report, so we'll talk about this, but this is directly affected by Innsbrook. We'll have the Chamber Award. And what else? Is there anything else you want on mayoral reports that we can come up with yet? Anybody? No? But we did talk about new employees, so Candace will be on there. Wave your hand. Oh, Connie. Gina told me Candace. Connie, we got to interview Connie yesterday, so y'all will get to know her a little better.
And where does she work?
She's gonna be, can we say that yet? I don't know, I was just letting the cat out of the bag. Water Resource Director, so, working with Jackie and these guys, so. Then we'll go to boards and commissions, and I don't think we have anything. We're still looking for board members for the
Yes.
Friends of the Music.
No, not the Friends.
The
We're looking for
regular
the-
board.
Yeah, your board.
And Parks and Rec,
So I'll remove that from the agenda then.
because we don't have anybody.
Correct.
Yeah, so keep your eye out for Parks and Rec, and that is on, Keep Ruidoso a beautiful T-bone, or is that just the regular?
That's Parks and
Regular Parks and Rec Board? Okay. And then for the museum. Managers' reports, anything specific? Anybody can think of right now?
You're gonna have your update, Mayor, on the homes and properties.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yep. Because
Ron,
Pete.
can we
Pete's been doing
talk
it.
about McDaniel Bridge?
Sure, we'll add that on there also.
Did they show up yesterday?
Jonathan did, yes.
State DOT is here.
I just don't know how quick they're gonna be, and that's somewhere the urgency, and if not, we're gonna have to just get somebody else to come in.
Willing to re-engineer it?
Right now, it's just a temporary repair, because that's one of the bridges that's, slated to be funded through FEMA, so.
So we go down the river, get all of the materials, and then we put it back
Shove it
together.
back.
Well,
That's what he's been
Until
doing.
the next raid.
And that's what the guys have been doing. We've had, Chavez has made a fortune off of McDaniel's Bridge, fixing it and fixing it and fixing it. So we just give him a hard time that he just needs to fix it. And then finally, we're getting an update on 603 Meacham, because P&M's got over there, started pulling everything. And then they also got the temporary hooked up,
and the transformers have been placed over on.
transformers and all that, and then the other project where they have a job trailer, so, the letters to the public BRC and all the phone calls and all that maybe's working. Update on Innsbrook, we'll find out where we're at on that. Hopefully, we're getting very close to paving that. Any other jobs that y'all want to know about? And then there's gonna be paving around town all over the place, and you've seen the little, what do they call that little layer that they put down? It's just a little bitty thin layer, that's not the paving, that's just to help level it out. And then they'll come back and put a 2-inch overlay.
Yes, and the Cutler's actually doing right now, Cutler's doing just the patching there on Sudworth right now is what they're doing, and that's a full, 4 inches of, hot mix on that area. So, and I know that was pretty bad across from Darren over there where that leak was at. And
And then they'll come back. and
No, that
paint.
one's, that's
what I
complete.
thought.
done.
Yeah, that's.
On our streets, they'll be doing the patching on our project, then they'll come over and do the 2-inch overlay.
Because you've seen some streets where it's just a thin, new black deal, and you're thinking this isn't much. That's just to level it out. So usually when we get into Midtown, there's a big outcry. Why are you doing this? You're messing up everything. But we've been talking about this one for so long, nobody's even called me about it. They say, well, they realized last week, they shut down Friday so we could get through 10, and they moved everything to Wingfield, Cutler. And nobody even called to complain. They were just happy that we were able to get the paving done. So
What about Starlight?
Starlight, we'll give an update on that, but if you notice, they've got the aggregate around it now, they've got some sand around it. So with the weather being dry, he needed it to be somewhat dry for compaction. And I'm getting all this from Adam and Michael Chavez. And hopefully today, tomorrow, they're gonna be filling that puppy up and compacting it. And then hopefully, we're gonna get open by this Friday.
That'd be great.
but I'm not gonna hold my breath.
No, because we have some storms coming in.
I know.
We got a big rain coming up.
But Paradise should be,
Well, he won't open any of it because of all the equipment.
Yes.
So that's what we're waiting on then. Chief, you gonna tell us about, that's what I was waiting on. Okay, and this, we're always between potholes and, just making dumb decisions that I'm accused of all the time on social media by my fans. My third request is, Chief, would you go run the radar on White Mountain, on Junction, on, Wingfield, and these particular streets, y'all know the names, we're constantly having to do that. So Chief has come up with a solution that we want to get on the next agenda for your consideration. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I gave you the shorter version, but basically what this is, in talking about how we address some of the speed issues without, as the mayor says, turning it into a community of speed bumps, is to look at getting a speed camera that we can place on designated roadways, and basically it takes the place of an officer. If somebody speeds through there, it'll capture their license plate. And as that handout you have, if you get to the third page, that's basically how that operation works. The camera will photograph the offense. It'll send it to us for verification. We then send it back to them and they issue the citation. That's the short of it. I did get a hold of the company, this Ultimate, and they're prepared to do a presentation at council next week. But what this is basically is that they'll put it up, they pay for it, it costs us nothing. They put the camera up, we can move it once a month. And the citations, as they recommend, are $100 a citation. $25 of that goes to them to pay for the equipment, and then the other $75 we keep and we can use towards traffic safety, whether that be purchasing additional signage on roadways, as we've discussed, that don't have the proper amount of speed limit signs, or if we need to look at, if it's, however that is, we need to spend that money for traffic safety issues.
And you have the ability to move it wherever?
So it's about a 1 month time, so we have to leave it in one spot for a month, which is fine. And I think if we say we put it on Junction, it would sit there for a month. It would capture everything that comes through there and issue citations. Then what we would do is we would move on to the next area of concern. If there were no immediate areas of concern, then we could certainly put it on Highway 70. Capture anything coming in through town. We could put it on Meacham, Sutterth, wherever it is that we decide might be a beneficial place to put it, just to kind of curb some of the speeding issues. Now, they do also put up signage, so this isn't a speed trap. It is equipped with, or they put up signage also indicating that there is a speed enforcement ahead, so.
Is there a buffer on the speed?
So I'm not sure how they may set it at our recommendation, and that's a question that we'll have to have with them. So I'm sure it's not going to be a zero tolerance, although we could probably set it as that. But, we may go with something, I don't know if we go as high as 10, but maybe stay around the 5 mile an hour limit above. But that's a discussion. I think with this, if I'm not mistaken, and the representative that's going to talk next week may have better answers, but this may include also some sort of ordinance that allows us to do this, and then we have to set, we'll have to have discussions about the penalty assessments. If that's what we're going to do as 100, I don't know if that's their standard rate, so.
that would have,
I've read about other communities that did this and then they pulled it out. Have we looked into the experience of other communities?
I don't know what the other, as we were looking at it, this is the company right now that's being used in Bernalillo County and Santa Fe, I believe. This is what they're using, and I know they've been using them for a little while now. I don't know how long.
I can tell you Rio Rancho had them, and there was a big pushback because some of the wrong people got the tickets. And they didn't like it because they weren't in total control. It wasn't just dismissed. It wasn't. So, but the simple thing is 10 miles an hour in a 20 mile an hour zone is way too much. And then, one of the things that we found is that a lot of our streets do not have adequate signage.
Signage, that's the
'Cause, you know,
biggest one.
and so revenue can be used to put on that, but it takes, you can't have a guy there every day. We're talking to these guys all the time, and the state has helped us quite a bit here lately on Suttereth and Meacham, just to slow it down, but there's not a day goes by, and I don't know how many calls Gina gets now, but Ron gets them all the time too, is, you know, people are speeding, I've called y'all, we've gone over, set the, you know, done the counters, and we'll have 2,500 cars, and you'll have 30 that are really speeding. And so, really, are you gonna penalize that many people, or just you get those people that are constantly doing it?
Is this, Ron, would this be sole source?
Mayor Crawford, Counselor Corey, we'll have to look into that and see. I don't believe it could be a sole source purchase because there's other companies that do that. Probably would have to go out and do an RFP and that process, more than
And
likely.
Counselor, there is no purchase on our part of it. This is all completely free and funded by them.
Yep.
But I don't see how is this going into the courts?
This doesn't go into the
It
court.
bypasses, it just, you get a ticket.
So-
And if you wanna fight it,
As this works, there are ways of, if you get the citation and say you weren't driving, I think the way it was explained to me is you can fill out a form basically saying, I wasn't the one driving, but you're required to put down who was driving. Otherwise, you're still the one that gets the citation
Because it's your car.
because it's your vehicle. Now, the question in this is not a criminal citation like you go to court for.
Civil.
This is a civil citation. So there are no bench warrants that are going to come out if you don't pay it, but it will affect your credit. It will go against your credit score. The company can file liens or do, however they handle that. It's a civil penalty for
It
doing
won't
it.
go against your insurance.
I don't know that they get reported to the insurance companies.
It goes directly into collections. So that's how it works. And essentially, there's verification process that goes through it. So they get the information, they provide it to us, we verify it, we say, yes, we're going to take enforcement action on this. It's mailed to those individuals. They have a certain time to get it, paid for. If they don't, it moves on to collections from there.
Okay.
Mayor Crawford, back to Counselor Corey's question. We'll speak with Farmington and to Rio Rancho, to Mayor Hall, and see what was the process of procuring with that company. And like in Albuquerque, when they had them, you get I only know this because my son got 2 tickets.
Yeah.
Came to me because they went by the license plate, whoever the owner of the vehicle is, and then they send you the fines.
I got one in Albuquerque where the speed limit goes from 65 to 50, that little stretch.
Right.
But they took all that down.
So my only thing is if you do have this person present on this, let them know it needs to be short and sweet.
yeah, I apologize. Some of these last few presentations, they've run wild.
Painful.
Yeah,
So it is going to be through Zoom.
okay.
That individual's not going to be able to make it in person. He would rather do it in person, but we kind of want to present it next week, so.
We can get, because we have to, now, is this a public? Or is this just something that is it an ordinance? Because we have to, on the fees, or?
Mayor and
We're talking
council.
about revisiting our ordinance fees too, so.
Yes, and we could have a presentation by the company and then we'll discuss doing the ordinance. We do need to amend that for sure.
Yeah, the presentation would be with no action.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a presentation.
Just they wanted-
Then we
Telling us
keep-
about
yeah.
it.
Yep.
And just real quick, the $100 is the standard, because if we lessen it, they're still gonna take $25, no matter what. So we could drop it to 50, and they're gonna take $25. So that's why they say keep it at 100. That's what everybody throughout the state that's utilizing their system is doing, so that, we can utilize that for, like Chief was saying, for signs, for cones, for anything that we need, traffic related.
Have you talked about it, Mayor, on the radio?
About, speeding?
This,
Not this particular deal, no.
I'd be curious what the public's reaction is.
Well, and I just know we get the same calls, And it's like we've done on several streets over here that we put the big humps on. And we kept sending off, this was one of the first ones I've done that we did. We'd send officers over, watch the street, park an empty car at the end, to slow down. And then what happened is there was a special needs child over there that got out the front yard and was close to the street, and the car went flying by. And they called me, and at that moment, you realize, we're doing everything else, but we're not getting, cause and effect, we're not getting any positive response. So we put those big humps in there, and it slowed everybody down. But do we really want a city like that? Because I get calls all the time. What do I gotta do? What do I gotta do to get it? And when are you gonna do it? You gonna wait till somebody's run over, and so those are the kind of things that bug me. So I know that the public's gonna say these things are not consistent, they're not this. Well, I got news. In Dallas, they know every time I drive through a toll booth, even if I don't have the toll tag, and I get a bill 30 days later, and if I don't pay it, it goes up exponentially.
And it's the same in Oklahoma as well.
Yep. And then
And in
the speeding
Chicago.
going down my son-in-law and daughter's street, I didn't think I was speeding, so I started paying attention. And I was speeding through there every time, and because I got a ticket. And it was a $45 ticket, and that was enough to get my attention. And so I started making sure, and it's just like on our streets, whole road, all those, we get calls all the time. And people coming off of Meacham, coming around White Mountain, it doesn't feel like that they're speeding, but they are. And I've done it myself.
White Mountain is awful.
And people walk in there, and all we've got is that little pole there between them and you. I've seen you out there just hoofing it. Just want to say, keep it up. You're doing great. You're doing great. And cars flying by there, and you see people go back, and it's those kind of things that I just feel like we got to figure out something to deter it, to get it on that tone, on top of mind awareness that I have got to slow down.
So we do this, and then we have a resident or somebody else who comes in at one of our meetings and says, this is ridiculous. It just.
There is a lot of information prior to that they put out to address the public of there's a big presentation that they will do for the public and that they will push out on our behalf so that they're aware of what's, taking place. And, with it, if they come in, they're like, it's not me, they do have the right to dispute it.
Yeah.
So if Mr. Letterman was speeding, not you, but you're getting the citation, you can go there and dispute it one time and say, no, it was Mr. Letterman, so make him pay for it.
There you
So,
go. Thank you.
But they do put a lot of information out there prior to setting it up. And it's great for the beginning of the school year. It's great to put at the, middle school year. And it's becoming such a hit right now with helping law enforcement out with the numbers that are down, that they're ordering more. And so you're going to see a lot more throughout Bernalillo and those areas.
Talk about the other two cameras.
Chief, Gavilan, is that county from start to finish?
No.
No, it's
Goes in and
kind
out.
of a checkerboarded
Because
area.
I had, Saturday, I had a truck behind me laying their horn on, and I was going the speed limit, and got over by the cemetery, and they went and passed me on the right side on that apron.
Try to get the truck number if you ever can. And
Yeah, he was carrying some windshield.
Oh, my gosh, on the
Oh,
right.
it wasn't a dump truck.
No.
So that area specifically is village, so it's kind of, it stops at Meander, and then it goes into county, and then we pick up again, right there, I believe, close to the cemetery, then it hits county again, then we got Gathering Gates, or by White Mountain Meadows.
Why did we have that apron along the street?
Right there at the cemetery, as you're
Across
coming,
from the
you're going
cemetery,
north.
and it says no parking, but.
Because it was meant to
extends-
be a slow lane, you move to the right and let people go by.
We had Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, whenever they had the turn lane, and then they had another lane where you could go around and be able to, somebody was
In
turning.
case you had a big funeral going in. It's kind of was the original idea, but when you're not,
It's not striped. So,
No, not now. It's,
No.
And it's nowhere near long enough if you had a procession that you're gonna ever hit it before, without getting to the last 5 cars anyway, so.
But just as self-reflection, and I'm always into growing. While that guy's laying on the horn, what was going through your mind?
Oh, tell us.
Nothing Christian, I can assure you.
Lord. I was just curious, I mean, and sometimes I get so rattled.
I was.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not just me then, okay.
One last thing to add to it, the cool thing about it too, zero cost, and I've made him, tell me, I don't know how many times, it didn't sound real to me, but it's zero cost, but for every one that we set up, we do get an additional camera that we can set up, that we can put in Midtown to, basically, it's another license plate reader. It's not the speed citation, but it does, monitor, areas like, with equipment being taken or things like that, that we can utilize to access their cameras to possibly get, direction of travel or other information on a vehicle as well.
I mean, it's more Big Brother, I get it, but we have got to figure out something to get these folks to slow down.
There's just not enough officers
No.
in every street that we have, because I can't tell you how many times I thought, God, I wish there was an officer right now.
See, then the other thing too, and I defended this back when I sat over there, like Hull, for example, you can't park anywhere. An officer can't park to monitor traffic. There's no side roads. You can come park in my driveway. Well, then you gotta understand the direction of radar and how it works and the way the car is, so it gets difficult. And it might be an excuse. I mean, now I'm in Midtown. I see it every day. I'm like, holy smokes, and it's locals doing it.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Totally, I can recognize half of them,
I always thought you should have it, and I walk that a lot. I live at one of those lanes, but I'm thinking maybe Indy flags would help, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody up there flagging it.
Right there, the white license plates are the ones that drive slow.
They do.
For the most part.
I mean, you get some of them that stay here quite a bit, but it's just too easy to do. And I know when you're going down Thrill Hill, if you're not watching your brake, Paradise Canyon and Constant.
You ought to have driven that when it was really thrilling.
Yeah, it was mandatory. You had to say, wee.
It was a little Volkswagen that was on 2 wheels driving that thing.
Guaranteed.
So we're gonna get some kickback for sure, I promise you, after it gets going, but, when, there's just so many. Pushback, what did I say, blowback? Kickback, oh, wow.
Well,
The mayor, is in this company.
Yeah, that Freudian slip. I'm thinking about a new truck and that kickback that's
We'll
gonna pay
have
for
to
it.
do a poll to see which one of us.
It's caught first.
It's not gonna be me, I just got a ticket in Portales, so.
I think everybody remembers a ticket. And I think Pavlov was right. I mean, he was a Russian guy who knew a lot about behavioral science, and you see it in a lot of sociologic situations, especially with law enforcement. But once you get a ticket, you do remember it.
Oh, yeah.
It affects you. And I think $100 hit would really get my attention.
Yep.
And that kind of goes to the point that the mayor had brought up was, we're going to revisit the penalty assessments on all of our ordinances anyways, because since the state took some of our fees away,
Right.
there's no real impact. You get a speeding citation, it's $25. We've got people saying, well, can I just pay you right now and move on?
Avoid all this paperwork.
Right, exactly. And so I agree, there has to be something punitive to it to actually get somebody's attention, because you drive through there once and you get a $100 ticket, okay, great. A week later, when you forget and you do it again, well, this is gonna start adding up, and yeah, it's not gonna, they'll either figure out to slow down or.
I don't think they'll be in debtor's prison, but I think they'll be very alert.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So you're talking to Rotary today?
Yes,
Why don't you bring this up,
absolutely.
see what the reaction is?
You could say it was Greg's idea.
Yeah.
And you can always say it was the mayor's idea.
There you go.
Sure.
We blame him for everything anyway.
All right, anything else?
No,
Okay,
sir.
we'll be ready to go on that. Next one is discussion and possible action on adoption of resolution 2025-22, This is the adopting the infrastructure capital improvement plan, the ICIP plan, so be sure and look at it. If there's something different you want to add or change or move up, this is when we can do it. Item number 2 is discussion and possible action on the acceptance of this is really, I'm hoping y'all are for this one. Invitation for the Xterra World Championship Committee to the Village of Ruidoso, Mayor and the Manager of Events and Strategic Partnerships, A.K. Eddie, and he's already left, participate in the official closing ceremony of the 2025 Xterra World Championship in Malvino, Italy, from September 25th through the 28th, 2025. Well, that's what we're asking permission. They're going to pay for it, and so we had the lawyer look at it and actually had the attorney for the municipal league, and whatever. They also invited the governor, and so
Where is
it's in the mountains of Italy. Is all that. It's up on the. They call it the Italian Alps.
The Dolomites.
There's an army base up there.
Well, it's Air Force.
So they'll pay for mine. They'll pay for Eddie's, and then they said I could bring Tracy. I just got to pay for her stuff. So
And the manager?
no,
Oh,
they
no.
just said the events manager.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I
that wouldn't
was
be.
Eddie's +1 there.
Yeah, maybe. Well, he's looking for a +1 if you hadn't heard.
See, well.
What is that single and mingle thing you?
Yeah, he's singing, he loves to mingle.
Mayor, if I could ask Chief Hall, because I got the questions coming, when can we, or go to level 1 fire restrictions and? Okay, Monday? Okay.
I think we should wait
And-
till
and-
October 4th.
And that's what some of the concerns are, because the calls that I have been getting is campfires in the forest, which I refer them to Smokey Bear. But I go, and us, we're still 2, and we'll probably, I go, I don't know when that will come up, so. Right. Right, and that would be good, if it happens.
Okay, anything else anybody can think of?
Yes, Mayor and Council, we also received an item for a request from Michael Morrow to rename
Oh, yeah.
Fire Station 1. So that packet, that will also be on the agenda, and you'll see the packet in Novus.
And Mayor,
Looks nice.
Oh, mural, yeah,
yes,
that
it
one.
looks, yes, they look.
And then there's another one. Yeah.
And Mayor and Council, we may have another agenda item. It's for engineering services. We did receive on the Homestead area a water line project, and it would be with Sauter Miller. So we may have that today, so we can input that. So we'll put that as a regular item.
Is there a closed session, Mayor?
We'll have one next week. And it'll be a good one. Party favors and everything. Anybody else? Nope, nope, nope. Okay. And then y'all get to meet Connie, formerly known as Candace, at the next meeting, so. Anyway, thanks everybody, and keep up the good work. We're still under, ominous cloud today, but I want to thank everybody for the positive output on the community. The tide kind of slowing down on the death and destruction, misery on.
No, you've done a great job.
But people going on and talking about it and working with Jesus Figueroa, we reached out to him to kind of.
Tone it down?
He's toned it down. So what TV station interviewed you?
Bunches, everyone I could ever, Dallas, a bunch of them out of Albuquerque, El Paso.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
it's
Lubbock.
been on Facebook.
And then they had one where, usually they'll do like a 30, 40-minute interview, and then there's 2 seconds of me scratching my nose or something. And this one, they had me on the whole thing for like 20 minutes, asking questions. And so we got to talk about all the choke points, the staging that we do, what Eric does, what the chief does, what the chief does, keeping the information out, all the things that we've put together with our utility trucks on the speaker systems, how we monitor it from the meteorologist standpoint, all of these things we kept putting out, and then talking about it's here and it's gone. And they actually had a crew out at the track on Saturday, and we had the warning, and then an hour later, the water hits, and they didn't even know. It was in the 15th race, the horses are running. I was down there filming it just to see how it worked, and it worked beautifully. The culverts, they thinking too small. Well, what happens is the water comes through, all the debris that's been removed, it's mainly small stuff, pine needles, crap like that. And when it comes, it's this thick on top of the water. And then the way it's held up, the way it's designed, the water goes through the culverts. And this stuff sets on top, and then it creates a vortex like flushing a toilet, and then it just sucks it all the way through. And it ends up all the way down, and those culverts are clean as a whistle. And then this is where we've got to work with the folks in the valley, because there's a ranch right there before the wastewater treatment plant, the Stansel Ranch. Poor old McCutcheon, David, he gets all of it. And so he's getting it there, so we'll be working with them. They don't want to clean it up every time, but, at the end of monsoon. So it worked out very well, and, what we've done, these guys came up with a plan on Main Road Bridge to divert the water to keep all the debris off the bridge where it runs it through the owner's property there into the river. We met with Dwayne and Jason? No, yeah, Zach. Really nice guys, understanding. That shot, they just bought the business, and half their properties are gone now. Of course, it's struggling, so, we're all kinds of conversations, because there's been money, yes, set aside, the 137 million, but we haven't been told how, when, or what we can spend it on, so that's still out there. So a lot of these things have been done that's helping us, and then we're having the floodplain reevaluated, because Park Canyon and Brady was never in that. And now then it's going to be in it, so we can get some funding for hopefully that. But a lot of that is still going on, and hopefully the new budget kicks in today, Mike, July 1.
Ron, Adobe Plaza, there's some RVs parked on the side. Were they threatened with the floods?
I don't believe so.
Look like.
No,
We'd heard from Mark.
Mary Ann still own that land?
Yes.
Yes. That area there where Mark Montgomery has those, that's been working great over there. There's some Jersey barriers or whatnot, and DOT had been cleaning up there, and then we had DRC over there removed that old mobile home and did some cleaning back there, so.
He's very happy with it, believe me, he's
Yeah.
called. It's worked out okay.
Mayor and council, so he actually calls us anytime there's an event right afterwards.
Sometimes when there's no.
Yes, sir. The only concern he has is that the water takes out that back portion of Marie Drive every time.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to work and see if DOT can help assist with that, because it's their tin horns on that backside that were too small and they flood out a little bit. But other than that, he said it's doing its job. Everything they've done is great. He actually got upset because he was getting a lot of cancellations in that area. And he's been showing people videos of, this is where we're at, this is where the road's at, this is where the floods are actually happening. So he's been mentioning that.
And that's been very helpful. We have had quite a few businesses that are getting upset at all the negative, videos that they're calling out on their own, saying, hey, you're killing us and your business. And so we just need to make sure that we get them clean, and our staff gets it clean unbelievably quick.
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, just for y'all's knowledge, this week specifically, we are running ads that Ruidoso is safe. That's mainly in the Lubbock market, the El Paso market, and the Amarillo market. Those are the three areas that we usually see foot traffic from during the 4th of July weekend. So those are happening as well on top of the social media.
Yeah, we got some additional digital billboards through Landmark. We signed an agreement with those guys. So, anything else?
Gas tax went up today, as the governor said. I told that to a few people, but I forgot. Says you can thank your governor for that extra cents. And I forgot how much it went on.
Well, what the legislator did is agreed to raise it 50 cents, and they were implementing, what was it, 10 cents a year or 10 for the next?
So it's 10, yeah.
They keep adding the tax.
So the mayor will be getting some emails now to lower the gas prices. So-
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what
So
he's
we're,
prepared
and
for.
we're gonna get right after it. Anything else? Okay, well, this concludes the agenda for today. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mayor.
Your Keithley radio show was good too. It was technical and it was well presented, I thought. It came on the Sunday.
Oh, and then we